So you guys asked me a lot of questions. Is this close to, are you too close to my face? I told you guys to ask me your most burning questions about short-term rentals, my personal life, why I haven't hired a proper barber to give me a proper haircut. So I'm gonna jump in here and answer your I bet you anything that mic isn't on. My man, see, when Caleb is here, things do not fall through the cracks. That's a good intro right there. Let's get started. But first, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Cuts. But a little bit more on them later. When it comes to HOA, Homeowners Association fees, how high is too high? Well, in regards to short-term rentals, any amount is too high, because if there's a homeowners association, honestly, you probably don't want to buy, just because a homeowners association can technically vote to rule out short-term rentals. I've heard of way more intense cases of that, where they can actually foreclose on your house if you decide to keep renting it on Airbnb and then you fight it out with them. And HOAs just have way too much legal power, I think. But to give you a less wishy-washy answer here, I will say this: if it's like $20 a month, then more than likely that HOA has a very small fund, and they're just using that $20 a month to do basic landscaping around the entrance of the community, and they more than likely don't have a super thorough set of bylaws. Now, on the flip side of this, if the HOA is charging like $150 to $300 a month, then more than likely it's a little bit more of a legitimate HOA with real board members and all that kind of stuff. So I would probably steer clear of that. For the most part, when I'm analyzing short-term rentals, if there's an HOA, it's basically a deal breaker. I have made exceptions to this in the past, but I typically walk away. What did you study for your undergraduate? I studied advertising, specifically creative advertising. I'm a copywriter by trade. I worked in the advertising industry for about 10 years, and while I don't work in advertising anymore, the marketing skills that I gained and the way that I critique my own creative and the way that I'm overcritical of every aspect of the work that you see, that I can 100% thank advertising for, and I can also 100% blame advertising for. Do you think the Airbnb market will become saturated anytime soon? Specifically in Joshua Tree? Not really. I don't think so. I think that we are really just scratching the surface here, with the tip of the iceberg, as they say. Short-term rentals, for the most part, are a relatively new concept. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but the actual popularity of short-term rentals and Airbnb is really something that's been around for the last 10 years, whereas long-term rentals and all other forms of real estate have been around for, I don't know, 6,000 years? No, I'm just kidding. The beginning of human civilization. So I think that we're really just in the infancy stage of Airbnb. A lot of people are really just discouraged right now because home prices are through the roof. Competition is crazy. You can put an offer in that's $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over asking price and still not get that property.
I mean, when has that ever worked for you?
Never! And everyone's like, is this it? Like, is it too late? Did I miss the boat? And I was just telling one of my students yesterday that it's not too late. It's just there's a lot of money in the economy right now. There's a lot of capital that people are sitting on, and they want to invest it in a high yielding asset. And I think short-term rentals are the best way to do that, because you can get cash on cash returns anywhere from 20 to 40, 50, 60% plus, whereas on a long-term rental, you're gonna get anywhere from 8 to 12% average. And in the stock market, the average return is 10%. So short-term rentals, if you can make anywhere from 2 to 6 times more than what you can make in the traditional forms of investing, then it starts making a lot of sense for a lot of people. The information is getting out there, sorry, and also thank you. And people are just understanding that short-term rentals are a force to be reckoned with. A lot of people stop themselves to get analysis paralysis. They're like, oh my gosh, it's too late. There's a market crash, I missed the boat. This is analysis paralysis. This is you making an excuse not to get started today. Because at the end of the day, it is a lot easier to not get started than to get started. And so we give ourselves this out of saying like, oh, I missed the boat, so thus I'm not gonna start, because that is easier than actually going out, finding a realtor, getting pre-approved for a loan, comping out a property, getting under escrow, doing a rehab, furnishing it, listing it, automating it. That's a lot of work. And it's, wow, sorry, I don't mean to get so passionate about this, but this is something that I hear every day from my students in host camp, and I'm like, guys, we are just at the beginning of this. And yes, it's hard work, but at the end of the day, only 1% of people are willing to do that hard work. So if you wanna be part of that 99%, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you wanna be part of that 1% who's willing to put in the work, there is a really, really great outcome for you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. See you on the next episode of Robuilt. No, I'm just kidding. All to say, if you're interested in starting an Airbnb business and building it from the ground up, consider consider enrolling in Host Camp at hostcamp.com. It's my 12-month mentorship program that teaches you everything you need to know. And in regards to Joshua Tree, it's competitive. I don't think it's oversaturated though, not by any means. I mean, all the people that I know out there, they're still making great money out there. I'm still making great money out there. I'm planning on building 20 houses out there at some point in the next year or so with my funds, so keep an eye out for that. But no, I don't think we've reached the point of oversaturation. What were the best and worst decisions you made during your Airbnb journey? I was really bad at giving control of like my properties to robots and automation, if you will. I do talk about this a lot on the channel, but I think when you manage one property, you can do pretty much all of it yourself. When you manage 3 properties, you can still manage most of it yourself, but things really start falling through the cracks 4, 5, 6 plus properties because you really start having to deal with so many guests at one time. You don't respond to questions, you forget to adjust the pricing of your calendar, you forget to coordinate with your cleaner and send out check-in and check-out instructions, and then your whole business ends up suffering for it. So it really took me a long time to start trusting things like dynamic pricing, for example, a tool that actually has an algorithm that can gauge how much supply and demand there is in the Airbnb market on any given day and give you the optimal price point for your Airbnb on that specific day. For example, if everyone is booked that day and you're the only Airbnb left, then this algorithm will know that there's no supply and thus they'll jack your prices up so that you can get a higher price point reservation for your Airbnb. That was something I didn't know about, and I was like always in the weeds of changing my prices. And then one day I would look and say, oh my gosh, next week is completely open. And I would find out that it was 50% more expensive than it needed to be because it was a price that I put in there 6 months ago and I just forgot to change it. So there are so many little things like that, from pricing to messaging to automating your cleaning schedules, that I just really was doing on my own. I learned a lot of this the hard way. And when I say the hard way, I just mean thousands of dollars of refunds throughout many reservations in my 4 to 5 years of hosting on Airbnb. So that's the biggest mistake that you can avoid and learn from. The more you can automate your business and make it efficient and optimize that efficiency, the smoother it'll run, the less time you're in the weeds of your business so that you can focus on scaling it up. Where do you get all of your dope threads from? What a coincidence. Right as I was about to start talking about today's sponsor, Cuts. A couple weeks ago, Cuts sent me some clothes and I was like, oh, they're probably gonna be pretty nice. But what I didn't expect was for them to be amazing. Big brand believer, they're very soft, they're very, very durable. And here's the best part, when you go to the Cuts website and you're like, man, I wanna save money. If I put in Robuilt into the promo code section of the website, I'll save 15%. Thanks, Rob. Thanks again to Cuts for sponsoring today's video. Now back to the video. How to pitch an Airbnb investment property idea without money, but you have sweat equity. So I think what they're asking is, if you were gonna pitch yourself to an investor, what's something that you could tell them to convince them to give you their money? I would say that there's a couple things here. When you're working with investors and you don't have any money, ideally they bring all the cash. However, by them bringing all the cash to the table, they also bring all of the risk, because if the house burns down or doesn't perform or is upside down or there's a market crash, they're actually the ones that are on the hook for the debt, whereas you didn't really bring anything to the table financially. So the way you can compensate that is by saying, hey, you be the bankroll, I'll be the brains. If you pay for it, I will make it a completely passive investment for you. And that's effectively what I did in a lot of my early on partnerships. I didn't have the money. I had the tenacity, the grit, and the knowledge to run a successful short-term rental business. And so ideally, they bring the money and you split the profits 50-50. However, it's not always gonna be that clean cut. There might be some instances in which the investor's a little wishy-washy, and then you can say, well, hey, instead of being 50% partners, how about this? You get 75% of the equity and profits, I get 25% of the equity and profits. Now look, it's not 50-50, it's not quite a beautiful deal for you, but I think what you're paying for is experience and credibility, because if you can get into your first investment deal, then whenever you start going out to other investors and pitching them, you can say, hey, I've already worked with investors before. Here's this piece of my portfolio that's actually performing super well and everything is going well. I'll even give you a reference. It makes it a lot easier for you to market yourself as someone with experience. Now, another thing that you can do if you want to even the playing field a bit is you can say, hey, how about this, investor? You pay for it, I will run it. We'll be 50-50% equity partners. However, before I ever get a dime out of this business, we will pay back your initial investment first. So you may work for free for the first year, 2 or 3, making sure that your investor gets all of their down payment and their furnishing budget all paid back to them. And yes, you are working for free. However, once you've paid them back, now you can split profits 50-50. You can own 50% of this house, and now you just got a free house. So there is no right or wrong here, but I do think that the wrong way to do it is to be stubborn, let your pride get in the way, and let the numbers dictate the deal. Let the experience that you're gonna get from the deal dictate the deal. Did you pay off your student loans? Sort of? This is a hard one. Me and my wife cumulatively had about $80,000 of student loan debt.
Humanity is full of morons.
We then refinanced that into like a cash out refi that we had with one of our houses like a couple years ago. I have paid down the balance on that house like a lot. I pay a lot of extra principal to it, which is like arguably not the best way to do it, but that's a whole nother philosophy we'll get into at a different time. I would say that if I was gonna pad it a bit, I would have probably about $10,000 of student loans technically that exist within my mortgage in one of my properties. I could pay that off many, many, many times over. I could have paid it off a long time ago. I really had the thought so many times over the years to just pay the $80,000 off. But when you look at the actual philosophy of investing, your interest rate on student loans are gonna be 3 to 4%. Right now it's refinanced into a mortgage that's a 3.25% interest rate. That's such a low interest rate. So yes, I could pay that off. However, what I prefer to do and why I didn't pay it off is instead of paying $80,000 off, I decided to just reinvest that $80,000 because I'll make a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% return on that money. And it's only costing me 3.25% to pay every single month. And it's like pretty decently under inflation, which is like 5 to 7% right now. So I'm borrowing this money for free, basically. So there's no reason for me to ever pay it off, which is why I'll probably never fully pay off my mortgages. Investors or bootstrap it. This was really gonna depend on your actual financial situation, what you have. I think it's really great to bootstrap it. I think it's really great to understand what it's like to run a business as someone who's super broke, penny pinching on a budget, because in order to be good at being rich, you have to be really good at being cheap first. So I want you to learn how to run a business as bootstrapped and as economical as possible. That way, when you go to an investor, you're not just blowing through their cash because it's not your money. I want you to treat their money as if it's your bootstrapped money. And if you can do that, you're gonna make a lot of money for both you and your investor. How do I secure a mortgage without consistent income? This is really tough. You're probably not gonna be able to get like an FHA loan or a conventional loan. More than likely, you're gonna need to get what's called a DSCR loan. That stands for Debt Service Coverage Loan. And that basically means that you're gonna be qualified for that loan based on the rental income of that property. There are even subtypes of DSCR loans. There are DSCR loans that will qualify you based on the long-term rental income of that property. There are also DSCR loans that will qualify you based on the short-term rental income of that property. Both of those loan products are incredibly useful, especially if you're self-employed or if you have a lot of 1099 income or inconsistent income, and they're gonna use that income to qualify you as well as your credit score. What else we got? Video en YouTube en español. Mira, la cosa es que yo quiero grabar los videos en español, pero nomás no puedo hablar español perfectamente y seguro que no puedo hablar español para 10, 15 o 20 minutos. Seguro que no puedo grabar un video que es 10, 15 o 20 minutos. Entonces, sí puedo hacerlo. Sí pienso hacer. Cada vez en cuando. Sorry, Caleb. I'll give you a clean one. Cada vez en cuando sí quiero hacer un canal que está 100% en español. Nomás es muy difícil para mí porque no tengo todo el vocabulario. Nomás es muy difícil para mí porque no sé los temas para negocio o real estate. Do you enjoy the present? Any regrets in life? I enjoy the present. I do. A lot. Probably more than any other points in my life. I mean, I would say the only other time in my life that was like really just super fun, not the only time, but like the time that really rivals how much I'm enjoying right now was probably not when I first started my channel, but 6 months in when I hit my first 1,000 subscribers, because the month after that, I went from 1,000 to 25,000 subscribers. YouTube made me creator on the rise for 24 hours. They featured me on their homepage. That was such a life-changing day for me. Everything was so new. YouTube was so new. Everyone was so nice. I was figuring it out. I was like living my dream. It was coming true. That was a really exciting time for me. We had just had Isla, like things were just really new and special for us. So that was then. Now it's like everything is still new. Like my dreams are still coming true. Like I would say the only real regrets I have are just regrets that I've had over the past 2 years, and it's working too much and not spending enough time with my family. So I think I'm working on that, and you know, I can fix that. That is a regret that I can literally work on and fix this year. And that makes me super excited. And lastly, and I guess I was like debating saying this. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but I had a family member that passed away, and we weren't on the best of terms when it happened. And, you know, I always thought that we would patch things up. I just didn't realize that his time would end. So my regret in life was like not patching up that relationship when I had the time and the chance. Life is really short. So if you're watching this right now and So if you're watching this right now and you're fighting with your mom or your sister or your brother or your dad or your cousin or your best friend, Caleb. I'm collecting myself. It's never too late to fix it, and we don't ever know how much time we have on this earth. So be grateful for the family that you have, because you only get one. All right, I'm not gonna try to redo that one because that was hard enough. But I do want to keep that one in because it's really important. Go apologize if you were an ass, or even if you were the one that was right. Like, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. And that is it, my little chickens, my little chickly-doo-dirds. Chickly-doo-dirds. Is that what we should we rebrand the Rob Bob to be the chickly-doo-dirds? Thanks for watching. That's my answers. That's my honest answers to every question. And you guys brought it on Instagram and submitted over 200 questions. Do you like this content? I hope you do, because I want to make more of these. This is really just a lot of fun for me to answer like your most frequently asked questions. If you want the opportunity to ask me more questions, follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I post there almost every single day. I'm always posting about my daily life, my Airbnb shenanigans, my empire building, my fun stuff, my kids, my wife, me, funny things, serious things, and everything in between. A little sad stuff, a little happy stuff, a little stuff to empower you to be a better person, a better entrepreneur. And I like to also do like little impressions of birdies. And I'll leave you with this. A wise man says that whenever you put on two shoes and you walk your life into prosperity, it is only there that you'll find the answer to